3000 right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. On behalf of Summit Kaiju and on behalf of Collect All Monsters. And I'm not really doing a figure review per se today. You already clicked the title. You already know what I'm covering here in this video. Basically, like I said, the title of the video is Thank You Monsterverse. Now, for those who might take that as something like the Monsterverse is coming to an end, like if I have some inside information about that, I really don't. I don't have any kind of information or any inside information if the Monsterverse is going to continue or not. Basically, this is just a testimony from my personal opinions, that I want to thank the Monsterverse for being a solid era of monster films, or at least Godzilla films, because I'm a Godzilla fan through and through. Despite my Team Kong advocacy for the past years or some change, I've always been a Godzilla fan, going on almost 40 years at this point. So I love Godzilla. Y'all know that. I love the movies, I love the characters, I love the stories, everything about Godzilla. Well, almost everything, because I haven't watched the anime, but through and through, I love Godzilla. I'm proud to be a Godzilla fan. I'm proud to be a part of this awesome community of Godzilla fans. And the Monsterverse has made me even more, or maybe even prouder to be a Godzilla fan. More on that later. So basically, I want to document my personal perspective on the Monsterverse films from the conception of this universe to where we are right now with the most recent film of Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I remember way back in, I believe it was 2013, when I heard rumblings that Legendary Studios were in the in negotiations with Toho for them to make their own Godzilla film. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really cautious about that. I didn't write off the project. I didn't say, oh my God, it was gonna fail, because the last time that an American film studio, or at least American filmmakers, tried their hand at a Godzilla film back in 1998, the results weren't the best in the world, quite frankly. I applaud the effort. That the 98 film did, but as far as like execution from an artistic standpoint, it really didn't do a good job, in my opinion. The film is a great monster film if you look at it as just a monster film, but they stripped everything that was so special and awesome about the original Godzilla character, and we got just a bare bones giant lizard. That's basically what we got, and once again, I look at that film, it's a good film, but I don't look at it as a Godzilla film. I know some Godzilla fans look at that film as the bane of their existence, and I can understand that, but I enjoy it for what it is. I just don't look at it as a Godzilla film. So when Legendary announced they were going to make their own Godzilla film, I was half cautious, but half optimistic. Because up until that point, Legendary Studios put out some great films. Films I'm still a fan of to this day. Like, let's say, the Dark Knight trilogy, or The Hangover, or the biopic of Jackie Robinson with the 42 movie with Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, good sir. Man of Steel, the First Pacific Rim. So those films in particular, in my opinion, are great films. And Legendary Studios, Legendary Films was behind those films. So I was like, if they can apply that same magic to a Godzilla film, then, hopefully this thing can turn out, in a positive way versus a bad, lukewarm reception at best like we did with 98. And so 2014 came out, and I enjoyed the film. I really did. The fact that Godzilla was not in the film that much didn't really bother me. Even though I know that's been like a bone of contention for a lot of Godzilla fans, that Godzilla is barely in the film, quite frankly. I think that's really the only film where Godzilla has the least amount of screen time. But I knew going in that this was going to be like a Jaws thing. Remember, in Jaws, you don't see the shark that much in Jaws either. But that film is one of the greatest films of all time. So I was thinking that maybe this might have the same effect, that Godzilla is not in the film, but still it will be a great Godzilla film. So I went into this film that, less is more type of thing. And through it all, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a dark, really a dark tone of the film. And I enjoyed it for what it was. Now, the only gripe I have with the 2014 film is that the trailers made you think that we were going to get like the evil, badass, sadistic version of Godzilla that was going to destroy everything or whatever. Now, you knew in the trailers that there was something else Titan-wise or Kaiju-wise in the film besides Godzilla, but those trailers made you believe that it was going to be all about Godzilla destroying the world, right? But then when you watch the film, you find out that he's actually, an ally of humanity. So I felt kind of taken by that, quite frankly, because at my core, as a Godzilla fan, I love seeing him as the villain. I love seeing him as the antagonist. I love the superhero Godzilla, but I love seeing him more so as the straight up villain. So when we didn't get that in the film, I was like, I felt kind of disappointed with that. But as a whole, I enjoyed 2014. I really do enjoy 2014. It's my least favorite of the Monsterverse films, quite frankly, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. Then that film was a success, and that was a good thing for me to see. I'm sure for every Godzilla fan as well, that not only was this film, good, at least for me, from an artistic standpoint, the film actually made some great money. It really did, which basically prompted, Legendary to make another deal with Toho, from what I understand, or at least try and get the rights to King Kong, and they announced shortly thereafter that they were going to make a King Kong film, and they were going to make this giant cinematic universe where all roads would lead to Godzilla and King Kong finally having a showdown, a rematch, if you will. And that really got me invested into this Monsterverse. That was the moment after there I was like, you know what, I'm on board with this thing. 2014, like I said, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, we didn't know at the time that it would go on to create this great cinematic universe, thus the Monsterverse. You see what I'm saying? But once they announced that King Kong was coming into the fold and was going to bring Godzilla and him together for a rematch, I was on board with that. So they came out with Kong Skull Island 3 years later, 2017. Once again, a great film. I enjoyed 2014, but I enjoyed Kong Skull Island better. And the fact that it was a period piece, it was made back in 1973. So I love the fact that it was a period piece. Not to mention that, it had a great cast: Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, Tom Hiddleston, the guy who played Loki in the Avengers movies, Corey Hawkins, the guy who played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton, Jason Mitchell, the guy who played Eazy-E, Straight Outta Compton, John Goodman, just an awesome cast. John C. Reilly, an amazing cast. And they did right by Kong. Kong looked great in the film. Now, that's the thing. The one thing I didn't really enjoy about that movie was the skull crawlers. I wasn't really feeling them as monsters or titans or whatever, but that has since been amended because I got me a figure representation of a skull crawler, which you'll see in a review maybe in a few weeks from now. But I have turned around on the idea of the skull crawlers, as well as the Mutos, I like the fact that, this series introduced new monsters, because, they were announced that they were acquiring Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah for the next film, which also made me happy. More on that later. But I love how the Monsterverse introduced us to new creatures, They may not have the long staying power of a King Ghidorah or a Mothra or a Rodan, but they were cool nonetheless. The Mutos, the skull crawlers, Basically no different than what Toho did back in the day with the Heisei series or with the Millennium series with the introductions of Biollante or Megaguirus or Destroyer. Just these new monsters that we've never seen before, but yet they command a presence when they're on the screen. No different with the Mutos and the Skullcrawler. But like I said, since then I have grown a fan of the Skullcrawlers just a little bit. I think they're cool monsters. They were cool monsters for Kong to fight, to build him up as a character to go on to fight Godzilla eventually. So as a whole, I enjoyed Kong Skull Island. I really did. And it was an awesome film. Now let's go into the next film, 2019's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Like I said, once Legendary announced they were going to acquire King Kong and build this universe, then they announced, I don't know which came first, the announcement of King Kong or the announcement of King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan acquisitions, right? But either way, once they announced the acquisitions of King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan, once again, I was on board. I was more heavily invested into this awesome series of films. Now, I enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters, and to this day is my favorite film of the Monsterverse. But unfortunately, it didn't do as well in the box office that a lot of folks hoped that it would. And I think a lot of factors play into that. It's not just one singular reason why the film didn't blow everybody's minds when it came to the box office performance. But at the same time, I think the biggest reason why this film didn't really do that well, a couple of reasons. I think the first reason is because it came a few weeks after Endgame, Avengers Endgame. And we all know that film was probably the best movie or the greatest movie of that year, 2019, based off the awesome franchise that came before with all the movies that led up to that moment of Avengers Endgame. So I kind of think that kind of played into why people didn't go out and watch Godzilla King of the Monsters. Maybe the 5-year gap between 2014 and 2019 maybe have played a role. But I also believe that this film, 2019, was specifically made for Godzilla fans. And I think that's probably the biggest reason. Just from my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the biggest reason why 2019 didn't perform as well as we thought that it would perform. And honestly, you know what? I have no issue with the fact that this film was made for Godzilla fans, because this film was full of references and Easter eggs to the past films, homages, if you will. And I have no problem with a Godzilla film being made for Godzilla fans. Because when I watch a Marvel movie, now mind you, I'm not an avid Marvel fan. I like the movies, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a comic book person per se. So there have been, I'm sure, a few Easter eggs or references when I watched the Marvel movies went exactly over my head and I didn't catch it, The same thing with the average fan that's not a Godzilla fan would have those references pass over their head with King of the Monsters, right? But at the same time, I don't mind having a Godzilla film that is made for me, that speaks to me. So even though the box office performance wasn't the best in the world, that doesn't change the fact that Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019 is one of the best and probably one of the most fun, if not the most fun, Godzilla films ever made, especially one made in the modern era. So I enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters. I really do. Once again, it's my favorite one from the bunch of the Monsterverse. And it was awesome. It really was awesome. Now that leads into the final film for right now, at least. Let's just leave it like that, because we don't know what the Monsterverse is going to do after this point, which led to the rematch of all rematches, the monster film that I've been waiting personally for a long time, ever since the original classic in 1962. King Kong vs. Godzilla. Godzilla has faced King Ghidorah multiple times. He has faced Rodan, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla, whatever. But the one monster that I always wanted Godzilla to see fight again is, of course, the original giant monster from the cinemas. Yes, probably one of the most iconic giant monsters alongside Godzilla himself, the one and the only eighth wonder of the world, King Kong. After Kong Skull Island did such a good job, revamping King Kong and reintroducing him to modern audiences, now we finally got to see this film of Godzilla vs. Kong. And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, at first I enjoyed the monster scenes, don't get me wrong, but I still maintain to this day that the human scenes were kind of like weak. The human story was kind of like weak, but let me amend that just a little bit. I've seen the film at least twice since it first came out a couple weeks ago on March 31st. And I enjoy it more and more and more as I watch it. One of those films that, it's unfortunate it didn't grab me the first time like 2019 did. But it's one of those films that, that happens. Sometimes you have to watch it multiple times for it to grow on you. And this film is growing on me more and more and more. You see what I'm saying? Even though I've been a highly advocate for Team Kong, Team Kong versus Team Godzilla, this film really is amazing. It really is. And it does right by the characters, both monsters, And I think the fans of both the monsters really should hold their heads up high and not poke fun at the other team by saying this happened or that happened. At the end of the day, the film honored both the characters, and to my core, that's all I ever wanted, because I'm a King Kong fan just as much as I am as a Godzilla fan. I love them both equally. And even though I was for Team Kong, at the end of the day, I didn't want to see Godzilla lose. You see what I'm saying? But I think they did right by the characters. And the introduction of Mechagodzilla at the very end was really, 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 really good. So I think all four films are amazing. Now, where does the Monsterverse go from here? And that's another thing, ladies and gentlemen. I am for either way. It can continue because they really left it on an open-ended note. If you have seen Godzilla vs. Kong, you know what I'm talking about. They left it on an open-ended note where they can go back to it. But at the same time, if this was the final film, if this was the send-off that maybe, they wanted to do, where they honor both the anchors of the Monsterverse, both Kong and Godzilla, in my opinion, you couldn't go out on a better note, in my opinion. So like I said, I'm for either way. I wouldn't mind seeing at least one more film in the Monsterverse, but maybe we could see Godzilla and Kong team up against, an alien invasion or whatever. But if this is the last film, I say this was not a better note for these monsters to go out on. You see what I'm saying? And that's another thing. I enjoyed the Monsterverse for what they did. I love the monsters. I love the revamp, or at least the reinterpretations of the monsters, Not every single one of them, I think, as far as like the big five from Toho, right, that were brought back in this Monsterverse, I think the redesign of Godzilla was amazing. Mothra was cool. Rodan was so amazing, especially King Ghidorah. Mechagodzilla is the only one that I'm not really feeling design-wise. Now, performance-wise, I think this is the most devastating version of Mechagodzilla that we have ever seen on screen. I will argue it's probably even more deadly than the one that we saw in the Showa period. And you all know how I feel about the Showa Mechagodzilla, right? But in terms of performance, I think the Monsterverse version is deadlier. It is more awesome. It is more brutal. And to me, just like King Ghidorah in 2019, in my opinion, we have never seen a version of King Ghidorah as awesome and deadly and frenzied as the one from his original film, 1964's Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. But the Monsterverse comes like a close second. So that's my point. That's my point. The reason why I love the Monsterverse so much is because they were made by filmmakers that not only honored the lore, honored the mythology, honored the past films, but they also honored the fans. They didn't shoehorn. They didn't shoehorn anything. They didn't phone it in. They didn't do a half-ass effort. They gave a great concentrated effort between Gareth Edwards, Jordan Roberts, yes, Michael Dougherty, and of course Adam Wingard or Wingard or whatever. Those four guys, those four filmmakers, they had a vision for their respective Godzilla film. And they did a great job of honoring the lore, honoring the past films, and honoring the fans. And I hope that maybe all the people that were involved with the original Godzilla films that are up in heaven right now, Eiji Tsuburaya, Tomoyuki Tanaka, Haruo Nakajima, just the people that have passed on, that were involved in the original makings of the original Godzilla films, I think through their core, they wanted to make films that not only send a message to the world, but they also want to make entertaining films. And I think if they were to look right now and see what has happened to their creations, how they evolved, and now they are still making movies today. They're just reinterpreted versions of the classic monsters that they created. I would like to think that, they probably have a big smile on their face and know that this awesome franchise and these awesome monsters are continuing on a legacy they have built way back in 1954. So let me just say this in final closing of this video. I want to say, thank you. Thank you to the Monsterverse. Thank you for giving us these great films. Thank you for building what I understand the second most successful cinematic universe right now. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing back Godzilla, King Kong, King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan, Mechagodzilla, and bringing them into this awesome cinematic universe. Thank you so much for providing some great entertaining films that I can pop in pretty much anytime that I feel like it and have a good time with them. The fact that we got one solid Godzilla film made by an American film studio is great. Now that we have 4 of them, and hopefully we might get more in the future, I think that is a great thing. So all my Kaiju fellow fans out there, you have nothing to be ashamed about. If you love the Monsterverse, great. I know there are some fans that are kind of exhausted with the Monsterverse, and that's fine. I know some people have a certain taste when it comes to their Kaiju films, and they feel that the Monsterverse doesn't meet that, quite frankly, and that's fine. But for me and a lot of other people that love the Monsterverse is an awesome era of films, and they deserve so much love. They deserve so much support because they've done so much, like I said, to honor the past films, to honor the lore, to honor the mythology, and most importantly, they honored the fans. And you couldn't ask for a better situation than that. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to the Monsterverse. Thank you to Mr. Edwards, Mr. Voight Roberts, Mr. Dougherty, and Mr. Wingard. Y'all did right by the characters. Y'all did right by the monsters. And you did right by us. And thank you so much We really do appreciate it. So in the meantime, why don't you pop down in the comment section and let me know what you love about the Monsterverse. Who's your favorite monster? What was your favorite movie? What was your favorite moment or whatever? Let's celebrate the Monsterverse because they have done so much to celebrate us, the fans, that have kept these awesome characters going for the foreseeable future. Hopefully we have not seen the last of the Monsterverse, but only time will tell with that. But if it is the end, let me just say, the Monsterverse is awesome and they have done right by us. And there's no way to get around that fact, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me when I say that. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on this Figure Move review. All right? Y'all take it easy. And long live the Monsterverse. Take care, guys.